Hello, you beautiful souls, and welcome to another week of Awaken and Align. I am recording this on the new moon in Sagittarius on 12/12, December 12th, 2023. I wasn't going to do an episode today because I wanted to sit with this energy of the new moon, and Mercury will be stationing to go retrograde in a couple of hours. But I was very inspired by my friend Anita Kopach, who has been a guest on this podcast. We did a fire ceremony this morning, and I was just so inspired by her words that I wanted to come here and share some of the things that I've been thinking about these last 2 months, and also talk a little bit about the astrology and a little bit about manifestation and just share some ideas. As you might have heard, Mercury is already getting me tongue tied here. This month, December 2023, was probably the last month for a while that Stephanie and I are going to do the monthly astrology forecasts because she is going on maternity leave. And a part of me was scared and I was trying to hold on. I know she deserves a maternity leave. And it wasn't that I wanted her to stay, but I just felt this deep soul calling within me that a lot of things are going to change in 2024. And a part of me, I guess the human part of me, is afraid of the unknown. But then the spirit, the soul, the intuitive, the wise part of me just knows that this is what's meant to be, that the next stage of my life, your life, our life is going to completely change. But what that's requiring us right now is to sit with the death and destruction, the reality, another mass awakening of our human consciousness, and also prepare ourselves for the many shifts that are going to occur in the next 3 years. I shared this on my Instagram about these next few years are going to be just a huge shift in terms of the outer planets. The outer planets in astrology are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and they are our collective planets. So anytime they shift signs, we have another initiation into another level of awareness collectively. And so Pluto is moving into the sign of Aquarius January of 2024. It'll dip back into Capricorn during 2024, but then stay in Aquarius for 20 years, starting in 2025. Uranus will move in the sign of Gemini, an air sign, in 2025. And Neptune will move in the sign of Aries in 2025. So it's really 2024 that we have this finishing up a cycle. We're finishing up these more yin feminine expressions of water. So Taurus is a yin feminine expression of Venus energy, earth energy, and Pisces is a yin feminine expression of Jupiter. And we're moving into the yang masculine expressions of Gemini and Aquarius and Aries, air and fire. And that's going to shift how we think, how we perceive things, and more importantly, how we act. So, what Anita said this morning when we were giving our intentions to the fire, she said that we all know that we're meant to do something on this earth, possibly something great, something big. And it can be in the form of a book, it can be in the form of a piece of art, our calling, our purpose. Maybe it's to heal our family lineage, our ancestors. Maybe it's to make amends with a family member or build something, a company. There's so many ways we channel our energy. But immediately when you set that intention out, all of your fears rise to the surface, which is why in my book, How to Manifest, we talk about this because first we talk about our vision and our dream, but then the next week, right after that, are looking at our fears and moving towards our fears because all of that material, the shadow aspects, must come up to the surface so that we become aware of them. We heal, and healing for me just means coming into wholeness because we are both light and dark. It doesn't mean there's not anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means integration. So you integrate the dark, the shadow, the fears, and that fear, when you walk towards your fear, you alchemize it, you transmute it into your confidence. And so when she said that, I was like, wow, that is so on brand with what I've been thinking about these last 2 months, because I feel like I went through another massive awakening that I didn't, not that you ever planned for them, but that I wasn't even aware that I was going through it until I reflected back. And I personally believe that we go through several awakenings so that we go through that initiation into our fears and our underworld so that we can transform. And I believe we die several times in our lifetime, and not the, metaphorically, but not necessarily the transitioning our bodies. And it's like a good thing. Like, thank goodness that we do that process, because when we're manifesting, we are revealing parts of ourselves that have always been there, but maybe have been covered up or we forgot because of conditioning, because of programming. And I just wanted to share a couple of things with you from my own experience, because I know for a fact that I'm here to tell the truth. My platform is not for people who want love and light, who want like good vibes only and beautiful Instagram and infographics. I think that was kind of a shock to newer people who found me post like BLM, post COVID, in that like middle time when I was posting like very positive, very manifestation oriented content. And then bam, it was like I was posting about the genocide. I was posting about being, you know, ending the occupation and all about collective liberation. And a lot of people were like, what the heck? And I just want to make it very clear that my platform is about collective liberation, spirituality, manifestation, and telling the truth. And sometimes hearing the truth is it's not easy. It's an awakening, it's a disruption, it's something that changes the foundation of your beliefs and breaks down illusions. And apocalypse in Greek means to lifting of the veil. And I realized that through, soul retrievals, past life regressions, shamanic journeys that I've done with healers and shamans, that I have been persecuted many, many lifetimes throughout my life times for telling the truth, for spreading spiritual understanding that is beyond, what the church and state deem as true to control us. And it's interesting because my mom told me at first she's always apprehensive about me being an activist. And she finally told me in October right around the eclipse in Libra that the reason why she was afraid is because I remind her a lot of her uncle, my grandmother's brother, younger brother, who was unalived for basically being a communist in Korea right after World War II. And, communism was just like a terrible thing, quote unquote. And he was more a socialist. He was all about power to all the people. He was all about equity, and he was all about literally collective liberation. And he was unalived for his beliefs and literally assassinated. And I think that generational trauma from my grandmother, obviously, my great grandmother, and then my grandmother, who was alive during that time, was passed on. And then my mom, just fearful because she said, like, I remind her of him. And because I asked her, like, where did this activism come from? Because nobody in my family is as loud about it as I am. And I got my answer. And so I call upon him because he was very young when he was executed. And so I call upon him to give me strength when I am afraid to speak, when I'm afraid to tell the truth, and when I'm afraid to be bold about it. And every day since I started sharing about, Palestine, which was a topic that was so polarizing, and it still is, and a topic that literally can get you fired from a job, losing friends, losing opportunities. This is something I wanted to talk about last year when the Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, I'm sorry for my pronunciation, she was unalived by the Israeli IOF. And I wanted to talk about it then, but I was so scared because I didn't want to, ruffle feathers. I didn't want to be controversial. And so this time around, I decided that I wasn't going to be silent anymore and that I would speak for people who were being silenced. And every day, as I was posting and I was sharing, of course, like the first couple times, my voice was quivering, I was sweating, I was nervous. And yeah, it did come true. I lost friends, I lost opportunities, I lost, yeah, just a lot. It felt like a lot at the time. But the more I shared, because I'm just telling the truth, the more I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. And it was building my confidence. When I would open up my apps, none of the hate comments would bother me anymore. None of the threats would bother me anymore. And it was almost like I was so confident in myself, and I was giving voice to like my ancestors too, and to people who didn't get a chance to follow their dreams, people who have been silenced. Now it's almost, we're at 25,000 murdered civilians. Half of them are children in Palestine, and then the 7 million in the Congo, and then the millions in the Sudan. I have to say something because I have the privilege to say something and not be unalived, literally. Maybe, yeah, my TikTok account got banned, but I'll just make another one. It's not a big deal. And so once people and my fears started clearing away, my social media following actually started growing. And I started connecting with people who have the same moral integrity as I do, the same values. And this is all what I intended for 2023. Like, I have my journal here with me. If you're watching the YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast version, I have a YouTube channel. And I literally write down every new moon, I write down the same intention, which is I desire to work with people who are creative, who are passionate, and who have the same moral integrity and values as me, who are excited and passionate about making this world a better place, and who are just as fierce, just as I don't want to say fearless because we all have fear, but who are walking towards that fear, who are committed to transformation, who are committed to collective liberation, and literally came true. Because now the people that I talk to, I collaborate with, we're very much aligned in the same vibration. And so that was another thing that I learned about manifestation, and I'm constantly learning and amending to the book, is you really have to feel that. Like you have to feel the essence of what you're trying to call in and be so open to how it shows up. Because honestly, I did not know that this was going to happen in this way. And if anything, I was terrified because I was losing friends and contacts and opportunities at first. And I was like, what the heck? I did not sign up for this. And then in the last 3 months, about like 2.5 months, I'm starting to see why, because you have to clear a way to make space for the thing you're calling in. And so there's this moment where there's emptiness, where there's empty space. And we're so trained to fill a void. We're so trained to get like anxious because there's nothing there. The void, right? The creation energy and the chaos, which is the feminine yin principle. But that is where manifestation happens. And I literally had this aha moment when I was sitting in meditation, and I said to myself, manifestation happens through your body. You are the creator. Just like people who have a uterus, they create life through their body. We create through our body by feeling, by believing, and by taking intentional action. But it comes through our body. And it's, because we are the change, and the effect is the external environment where then we perceive of the thing that we are manifesting. So when Anita said that this morning, I was like, of course, when we are intending for something like today on the new moon in Sagittarius, and actually, when this comes out, if you're listening to this when it comes out, the first week of December 2023, the best time to set your intentions is when there's a crescent moon in the waxing phase. So just say like when the moon is like 3 days from the actual new moon. So this weekend, like the 14th, 15th, 16th. This is such a great time to put it out there. Your biggest dreams, because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, your biggest visions, and be bold about it, because that is where everything starts. And then just know that your fears are going to come up to the surface so that you know what material you need to transform. Okay, so I just want to mention that first, because right after this new moon, there's going to be a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Capricorn at 8 degrees. And if you listened to the December forecast with Stephanie, she mentioned that this degree, 8 degrees in Capricorn, was when Mercury stationed direct back in January of 17, 18, or 19th, based on your time zone. And so look back in your calendar, your photos, your journals. What were you thinking about? What were you going through at that time? Because similar topics will come up this time. And so I looked back, And Capricorn is my second house of self-worth and value, money, resources. And back so like the beginning of this year, I wrote, I need to feel deeply valued and worthy within myself. Just being me is enough, which is why I overgive and show up online constantly because I'm still seeking external validation to make me feel worthy and valuable. Capricorn is a yin feminine earth sign and it's ruled by Saturn. So Mercury being in a Saturn ruled sign can also bring up fears. It can bring up the past, people from the past, perhaps, but also topics around family, around money, around worthiness. Okay. So then I wrote, but now I have to give to myself. And when I read that, I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly the feeling that I'm going through now because right now I'm in this, and let me know if you're going through this as well, this kind of like liminal space of I don't really know where I'm going, but I know that the past is in the past and I'm in this empty space again. And like I said, when I was talking to Stephanie and we were just talking about like going forward in 2024, and I don't even know exactly what that's going to look like. Am I going to do the forecast, monthly forecast myself? Am I going to ask other guests to come on? Do I even want to do that anymore? I know a lot of you like it because I see the analytics. A lot of you love those episodes. Do I want to continue doing interview format on my podcast? Because actually, my solo episodes do the best, but I'm always like, no, like, I don't want to hear myself talk. I want to hear other people talk, and I want experts to come in. So I'm kind of in this space where I'm in this liminal space of just allowing and just moving with the flow, which is very difficult for me. I am naturally a person that likes to be active, likes to, I'm not necessarily a planner, but I definitely like to be active. Let's just say it that way. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to mention before I show you the chart is that around the new moon in Aries, which was at 00 degrees of Aries, which is conjunct my sun. Thank you very much. I saw this beautiful post by Buki, who has the Instagram handle Adventures in Om. She was a guest on the Work podcast, but it's definitely in the Awaken and Align feed if you want to listen to her episode. She has so much wisdom. But she wrote this beautiful post that I wanted to share about metamorphosis. Surrender to the discomfort of change. There's a period of darkness which initiates. It initiates change internally, a decomposition, death of the ego. The calling manifests in our soul, pushing for growth, initiations, and crossing the thresholds. We can accept rather than resist. We allow the wisdom of our expansion to be our medicine through the darkness. So I mentioned that because that's exactly how I feel. I feel like there is this deeper calling in my soul. I can feel it. It's almost as if a future version of me is calling parts of my soul, being like, we need to transform. And that's ultimately the lesson of Pluto. It's like transform or perish, right? And then another part of me, probably the human part, is like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do this time? What transformation are we doing this time? And I'm kind of just now, again, realizing you can't resist. You have to just allow the things to die and decompose. And I mean, I write about that in my book, but of course, you know, when it comes to actually going through these things, it's easier said than done. And that's where I am right now. And the thing is I'm partially excited and partially afraid, but partially like I know this is what needs to happen. And this new moon in Sagittarius, I feel like is so auspicious. I think it's lucky. And I think it's just what we need to propel us forward into 2024. So I'm going to share the screen and show you the new moon chart. I'll try to do my best to describe what I'm showing on the screen, but if you want to see what I'm doing, you can head to the YouTube channel of the Awaken and Align podcast. It'll be linked in the show notes below. Okay, so here is the new moon chart, December 12th, 2023 at 6:32 p.m. Eastern. Please adjust for your time zone. And I use whole house signs, and I'm a Western tropical astrologer. Here we have the new moon at 20 degrees of Sagittarius. And a new moon is when the sun and the moon are conjunct or together in the sky. And so when we have a conjunction, it's like a reset. It's kind of like a cazimi. We always talk about cazimis on the monthly forecast. It's when a planet and the sun are together in the sky and the planet is renewed by the sun. So let's start from, I guess, what is Sagittarius energy? Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign. It is ruled by Jupiter. It is the diurnal expression of Jupiter. So it's yang, it's masculine, it's more outward, it's more extroverted, it's more expressive. It's a fire sign. So, of course, it's going to be expressive. Sagittarius is also about the adventurer, traveling to foreign lands. It's the philosopher. It's learning about different things, cultures, languages, foods. It is the teacher, but ultimately because you're an eternal student, it is all this fun things in life, right? The shadow aspect of Sagittarius is dogmatic beliefs, being a preacher, and being a little chaotic, I would have to say, but sometimes in the best way possible. So, I mean, it's hard to talk about your own shadow aspects, right? I'm a Sagittarius rising. So the new moon is also very close to Mars. Mars is the planet of action, is the planet of severing. And Mars in Sagittarius is a very athletic aspect. It's a very athletic expression, should I say. So with Mars there next to this new moon, you might feel compelled to start an exercise routine, to start exercising, moving your body, doing some kind of like outdoor activity, going on an adventure, learning something new, but it's a very active new moon. Now, the ruler of this new moon is Jupiter here in Taurus at 6 degrees retrograde. And just FYI, it goes direct on December 30th. So when Jupiter is in the sign of Taurus, it doesn't have any dignity, but I think Jupiter is doing some kind of expansion work in your Taurus house, right? And Jupiter is the planet of expansion, opportunity, and luck. And Taurus rules things like money, the earth, food, your throat. Taurus rules the throat, your voice. And so wherever you have Taurus, whether you use Placidus or whole sign house, look at where Jupiter is trying to expand you. And it's in retrograde, so it's still like a reflective energy, like how am I going to grow my money? How am I going to create slow and steady progress in this area of my house area of my life? Because Taurus is the slowest sign too. It's a fixed earth sign. It's ruled by Venus. And I would also think about what kinds of things, Venusian things, Taurus things, do you want to expand? Like, have you been interested in more sustainable practices? Have you been interested in building your wealth or your body? Because Taurus is all about embodiment, eating more plant-based foods, things like this. And once Jupiter goes direct, you're going to put those things into motion. Let's see here. So then, okay, so the one caveat, because there's always a caveat, is the new moon is square to Neptune in Pisces. And Neptune is the god of the oceans, like Poseidon. Pisces is also about the oceans, but Pisces and Neptune are very spiritual archetypes because it's all about surrendering to the unknown, having faith and a belief in something greater than yourself. And so when you have a square to Neptune, and I should know this, I have my sun square Neptune natally, you can feel confused. You can feel like you want to disassociate and escape. You want to feel like disillusioned. But the whole point of this square to Neptune is to believe in something bigger, believe in like a one consciousness, lean more towards your faith and spirituality, lean more towards art and music. And like what really helps with my Sun square Neptune is listening to music because it helps calm my nervous system. So the shadow aspect of this, which again, I can give you like firsthand account witness statement, is it'll make you want to disassociate and like go off into the 5D because the reality of Earth is too dense. Or it'll make you want to like numb out with substances like alcohol or drugs. Or it'll make you just like not want to be in your body, which when you're manifesting, you have to be in the present moment and in your body. So, again, my suggestion for you is to ground your energy. Pisces rules the feet. So maybe you can do like a foot bath, or you could put your feet onto the ground, listen to music, create some art, channel your fear, like put it on paper and burn it. You can lean into your spiritual practices, but most importantly, try to ground yourself so that you're not disassociating. And another aspect of this square to Neptune is I do like watching fantasy movies or reading fantasy books. I oftentimes feel like this earthly experience is too dense for my empathic soul, that I really do turn to reading to help me in my own like fantasy and my own it helps me cope basically. So, okay, the last thing that I will mention is that the new moon is trine to the North Node in Aries, and that is so lovely. That is a harmonious aspect to the North Node, which is our collective soul's evolution towards sovereignty, self-determination, and independence. I really love the North Node in Aries. I mean, I am an Aries. So I think that with the North Node conjunct to Eris, the goddess of discord, and to it's a wide orb, but it's conjunct to Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries. This is all about us healing our codependency, our people pleasing. This is all about us really stepping into our own power. So this whole new moon chart is, again, what I said is all about faith. It's all about belief. It's all about dreaming really big and putting it out there. And then just like I said, I journal, I put down the transits, I write down what's going through, my intentions, and then I check back like 6 months from now when it's the full moon in Sagittarius, sometime in June, sometime in Gemini season, just see how things have changed or see how things have come into fruition from your intentions. And today is a 12/12. Some people consider this to be a portal. I only consider portals to be astrological alignments, but do whatever you got to do. All right, let me see if there's anything else I want to talk about this new moon. Oh, like I said, so here Mercury is at 8 degrees and it's in Capricorn and it's going to go retrograde in a couple hours. So as we have this new moon, we also have a Mercury retrograde for the rest of 2023, and it's going to go back into Sagittarius at some point at the end of this month. Check back to our December horoscope, and then it's going to go back into Capricorn and go direct, I believe, January 1st. So just again, think about what you were going through, what ideas you wanted to have like come into fruition for 2023 back in January, and see if those things came true, see if those things are still relevant to you today. And yeah, it'll give you some clues as to how far you've come. And I honestly can't believe that this is the end of 2023 because I remember talking about that in our January forecast. Okay, so I will stop the share. So some of the things that we talk about in how to manifest, the workshop that I'm hosting starting Monday, January 1st, 2024, we're starting right away, is we do actually, well, at least I try to incorporate the astrological alignments because the energy is there for us to utilize consciously. And I wanted to start on January 1st because I think it was because Mercury goes direct, but also it's a moon day, a Monday. It's the start of a new year. And like I said, 2024 is going to be this pivotal year. It's an 8-year in numerology, which is about your own personal power. It's a year where we're closing out a cycle, a major cycles with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. But that's collectively, you might be going through your own cycle that you're either completing or beginning or both. And that really all depends on your own natal chart, which I also do natal chart readings. So you want to look at your individual cycle and the collective cycle and how you are meant to I guess, show up in your own chart. I was telling my friends yesterday, because a lot of them have met me in the last like 3 years. They don't know that I worked in private equity for 6 years, that I lived in Manhattan for 10 years, and that I had this whole other life before I came to healing, spirituality, astrology, and activism. I was always an activist, let's be honest. But I told them it was just part of my chart. Like I am just living my chart. And I was living it even when I didn't know I was, kind of just tuning into what was calling to me and listening to my intuition. And now I'm more conscious of it, obviously, and I know how to read my chart. So I just know intuitively, also looking at the chart and looking at what's going on collectively, that we're all going through this major awakening, rebirth, transformative 2024 moment. So I guess the last thing I will leave you here with is the first week of how to manifest. We're going loosely based off my book, is the dream. And in the first week, we talk about our vision, our greater vision for our life. It's very Neptunian, right? Our dream, not the dreams that you get at nighttime, but what you have always seen and wanted and desired for yourself, that maybe you said, I'm too old, or I'm not smart enough, or I don't have that degree, or whatever the story is that you tell yourself. That is what we do on week during week 1, which will be starting on January 1st. And then we end, I believe, February on the new moon in Aquarius is the 40th day. And we're going to set an intention together on that day, on the last day, on the 40th day. So I'm going to leave that here for now. And again, I'm just so grateful for all of you for listening and for sharing and for being on this journey with me. Now, my podcast has been around since 2018 when it was called Chase Wild Hearts. And so it's been 5 years, and I've tried to get out of my own way and my own fears now this year to promote it more and to tell people about it more. And 2024, I'm intending to grow this podcast, have diverse voices on my podcast, sharing more stories, sharing more tips and tricks and magic on here. But I just wanted to say thank you all so much. You've been such a huge part of my journey. And with that, I will talk to you soon. Bye.